whether it's women's basketball, whether it's in the work world, whatever it is, women have to continue to lift up others as they climb. And that's really what it is all about. How do you leave the legacy with the sport? I'm Dana Hart. I am the president of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, located here in downtown Knoxville, Tennessee. The idea came around in 1993, and the goal was to open a Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Jackson, Tennessee. Prior to the NCAA Final Four was the NAIA Final Championship for women's basketball, and those games were held in Jackson, Tennessee. So Jackson tried with some of our women's basketball leaders to raise the funds to build the Hall of Fame there, and were unable to do it. So in 1999, a couple of great women's basketball supporters and influential women in the game, Gloria Ray and Pat Summitt, said, let's bring it to Knoxville. Not only is it a hotbed for women's basketball, but Knoxville is within a day's drive of the majority of the population of the United States. So it's easy to get to. It's kind of that midsection between a lot of the major interstates in the eastern part of the United States. So it was the perfect fit for Knoxville to be the home of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. So the Hall of Fame was designed and built in 1999. It is a very unique architectural design. The hall is built with two rotundas, one on each end. The South Rotunda houses the Pat Summitt Rotunda, which is where we do a lot of our special events. It's also the first room you walk into when you enter the Hall of Fame. It's the home of the Elizabeth McQueen statue, which is our mission statement, the past, the present, the future. On the North Rotunda is where our basketball courts are, and that shows what a ball court would look like from the past, from 1892, with the drawstring peach style basket, to the present, a current court, what it would look like, and then what the women's basketball court may look like for the future. Above that rotunda in the ball court sits the world's largest basketball. The rest of the Hall of Fame, it is designed in an oval, so you have a section of exhibits on both sides going to the North Rotunda, and a section of exhibits on this side both ways going to the South Rotunda. So it gives us two hallways full of exhibits above and on both sides of the rotundas. So here at the Hall of Fame, we have a lot of really cool exhibits. We change about 65% of our exhibits every year because it changes with our class of inductees. So we go through and we say, what is your favorite exhibit item? You know, and that's a hard one because there's so many items here. Probably two of the most popular. One is the 1901 rule book, which was written and edited by Cinda Berenson Abbott, the mother of women's basketball. There are 3 copies known in existence. We have a copy here at the Hall of Fame on display. The Naismith Memorial has a copy on display in Springfield, Massachusetts, and the Library of Congress has a copy. So that is probably one of my favorite exhibit items. The next one would be Pat Summitt's offer letter. It's a typed letter. I can picture it having carbon paper on the back side, and it is offering her position here at the University of Tennessee to coach women's basketball. Pat had just graduated from college. She was very young, and she took on this group of young girls with not a lot of resources. And when you look at that letter, it's so important because from that letter, Pat became a legend. But from that letter, Pat had the opportunity to impact so many different lives. Women that are coaching now, men that are assistant coaches or head coaches. You know, when you look at the basketball family overall, there are so many links that go back to Pat Summitt and what she created from that simple little letter. And to think of where the world has been and how sport is impacting peace throughout the world and these players. There is now a Girls Basketball Institute in Iraq. The Center for Sport, Peace and Society at the University of Tennessee went to Pat Summitt and said, do you have any extra basketballs laying around? And Pat said, well, yeah. And she said, do you have some we can send to Iraq? Pat said, absolutely, clear out the closets. You know, typical Pat fashion, clear out the closets. So they sent basketballs, they sent some warm-up gear, some different things to Iraq. Those girls were able to have a basketball. Where they were playing with one ball for 5 girls, now they had a bunch of basketballs and more girls could participate. You know, it's interesting how a simple little game with a small ball can change lives, and it does. The night we had those teams here, one of my favorite moments ever here at the Hall of Fame is the girls from those teams. They laid on the floor in the rotunda and looked up at the statue, and they were holding hands. And on the floor is our mission statement of honor the past, celebrate the present, and promote the future. And looking out at these young women holding hands, looking up at that statue and thinking of what they've gone through just to be able to play the game in their country is huge. One of the young women that came on that team that I was talking about, Hoshi, was able to go back, and her whole goal as a young woman was to be the Pat Summitt of women's basketball in Iraq. She wanted to be Pat in Iraq. So when Pat was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Iraqi girls said, we want to be a part of this. And so the We Back Pat motion started. They did a We Back Pat game in Iraq. And I say the word sisterhood, but it really is. And as you climb, you bring someone up with you. It is so important. Do not ever forget where you're at and who you can reach up and give a hand to help them be that next person. Because once we're gone, what we have left is what the legacy is. That's the impact I hope the Hall of Fame has on many for generations to come. It's very important that we know it's in our backyard and that it's ever changing and that it is a part of who we are. Could the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame be anywhere else? I don't know. Would it be the same? It's not for me to say, but we are very blessed that Knoxville has Pat Summitt in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and they are so closely tied together.
We want to hear about your Tennessee life. If you know of a person or story you would like to see featured on this program, please write to the address on the screen.